So what's the one thing that really separates, a personal opinion from a truly powerful, persuasive piece of academic writing? It all comes down to evidence. Today, we're going to dive into this crucial skill, pulling directly from Mohammed AbdEllah's work to see exactly how solid proof becomes the absolute bedrock of any strong argument. Think about it like this. Over here, you've got an opinion. It's just a claim, kind of floating out there with no backup. But over here, you have an argument. That's a claim that's been fortified, built up with solid proof. And really, the whole game in academic writing is moving from that flimsy opinion to an argument that can actually withstand some serious questioning. So what even is evidence? Well, it's the proof. It's the data, the quotes, the documents. It's all the raw material that lets you tell your reader, hey, this isn't just something I think. This is what the research actually shows. It's your ticket to being taken seriously, to being credible. All right, here's the plan for today. We'll start with the very foundation of an argument. Then we'll look at your building materials, the different types of evidence you can use. After that, we'll get into how to actually construct your case, how to cite your blueprints so everyone knows where your ideas came from, and finally, we'll do a final inspection. Okay, so you know that any great building starts with the right materials. Well, in academic writing, it's exactly the same. That means you first have to understand the two main categories of evidence you're going to be working with. Let's break this down. First up, you've got primary evidence. This is the original stuff, the first-hand, unfiltered, raw material. Now, on the other hand, you have secondary evidence. This is what other scholars have written about that raw material. It's their analysis, their interpretations, their critiques. To make this super clear, think of it this way. If you're a scientist, your primary evidence is the raw data straight from your lab experiment. Are you a historian? It's an original letter from the period you're studying. A literature student? It's the novel itself, or maybe a direct interview with the author. See? It's the source in its purest form. So then, secondary evidence is everything that builds on top of those primary sources. We're talking about scholarly journal articles that analyze that experiment, or books that interpret those historical documents, or the literary critiques that break down that novel. When you use these, you're essentially joining a bigger conversation with other researchers. But, and this is a huge but, you have to be careful. When you use a secondary source, you are looking at the original evidence through someone else's eyes, through their lens. And that means you have to be on the lookout for potential bias or even misinterpretations. Basically, you've got to read with a critical eye. So, you've gathered all your materials. Now for the fun part. How do you actually build the argument? Let's talk about how to present your evidence so you can construct your case brick by solid brick. You've got a few key tools in your belt. You can quote directly, which is great when the original wording is just too perfect to change. You can paraphrase, which helps you weave an idea smoothly into your own writing. Or you can summarize, to boil down a big, complex argument. But look at that last step, explain. This one is the golden rule. You can't just drop a piece of evidence and walk away. You always have to explain to your reader how that evidence proves your point. Just like a good architect always cites their blueprints, a good researcher always cites their sources. And this isn't just some boring rule. It's really the ethical core of how we share knowledge. So why is this so critical? Well, it boils down to two main things. First, it shows you've done your homework, which makes your argument way more credible. And second, it acts like a roadmap, letting your readers go back and find your sources for themselves. It's all about being transparent and trustworthy. All right, let's get into the how. The first common style is called a narrative citation, and it's pretty much what it sounds like. You make the author part of the narrative, weaving their name right into your sentence. And here's a perfect example. See how that works? The author, Abraham Maslow, is mentioned right there in the sentence, so it flows really naturally. Then the year, 1943, is just tucked into parentheses right after his name. Simple as that. The other popular style is the parenthetical citation. Now, with this one, the author's name isn't actually part of the sentence. Instead, all that credit information gets bundled together inside the parentheses. So with this style, you make your claim first, and then boom, at the very end, you drop in the source information, Maslow, 1943. Both of these styles are perfectly correct. It just depends on what flows better for the sentence you're writing. Okay, one more rule, and listen up, because this one is absolutely vital. If you are using a direct quote, I mean word for word from the source, you have to include the page number where you found it. This helps your reader find the exact spot, no guessing required. All right, so we've built our argument, we've cited our sources, but we are not done yet. There is one final step, a crucial quality check that really separates the good academic work from the truly great work. It's time for the final inspection. Before you call it a day, you have to stop and ask yourself this question: is my argument really solid? And the only way to answer that with any honesty is to adopt a critical mindset. Now, having a critical mentality doesn't mean being negative or just tearing things down. It means being an active, analytical thinker. It means you don't just take information at face value, you question it, you analyze it, you poke at it, until you can form your own independent, well-reasoned judgment. So, what does that actually look like? Well, think of it as a checklist. You investigate a source's hidden assumptions. You evaluate the quality of the evidence they're presenting. You check for bias. You look for both strengths and weaknesses. And then, and this is the most important part, you turn that same critical lens back on your own ideas. And we'll end with this really powerful warning from the source text. The temptation to just look for evidence that supports what you already think, that's called confirmation bias, is a fatal mistake in academic writing. Your goal isn't just to be right. The goal is to build the strongest, most honest case you possibly can. So the real question is, how critically are you willing to inspect your own work?